Okay. I now call this April 6th, 2026 meeting into order. Hello, everyone, and good morning. We'll start with the land acknowledgement. We acknowledge that the Students' Union operates on the traditional territory of the Haudenosaunee, Anishinaabe, and the Neutral Peoples. This land is part of the Haldimand Tract, which was promised to the Six Nations, and we recognize the enduring presence of Indigenous peoples on this territory. Perfect. Moving on to regrets, I have received regrets from Directors Bilodeau and Rutherford, who cannot join us today. In terms of absences, I believe we do not have any absences today. Okay, are there any conflicts of interest to declare at this moment? And I would state that we move on to the adoption of the agenda. Can I have a motion that the Board of Directors adopt the agenda as presented? Motion by Director Anas, seconded by Director Khattab. Is there any discussion on the matter? No. Then we shall proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Director Ward? Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Thank you. Okay, I believe that there was a motion to make an amendment to the agenda. Vice Chair Ferguson?
Hey, sorry, I was having audio issues, so I couldn't amend it during the discussion. But yeah, to include the Finance Committee brief.
All right, so can I have a motion to make an amendment to the agenda to include the Finance Committee's end of term financial report? Motion by Director Murphy, seconded by Director O'Leary. Is there any discussion on the matter? Yeah, okay, then we shall proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Director Ward? Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Thank you. Okay. Okay, can I have a motion that the Board of Directors adopt the consent agenda as presented? Motion by Dr. Anas, seconded by Vice Chair Ferguson. Is there any discussion on the matter? No. Then we should proceed. Then we shall proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Dr. Ward? I'm going to take that as like a yes. Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Thank you. Okay, is there any discussion on the consent agenda? Dr. Ward? Okay, there's no, okay then. Can we discuss the interim financial report after the consent agenda?
Sorry, you're asking me?
No, I was asking Vice Chair Ferguson. Vice Chair Ferguson?
Yeah, if you want to do it, even if you want to do it like just before the in-camera session, I'm really indifferent on it.
Okay. Then we'll discuss it after the just before the in-camera session. Okay then, since there's no discussion on the consent agenda, we can proceed. Proceeding on to the meeting minutes approval. You can have a motion on the Board of Directors approve the amended March 9th and March 23rd, 2026 meeting minutes. Motion by Director Anas, seconded by Director Khattab. Is there any discussion on the matter? Vice Chair Ferguson?
Yeah, just a couple of things I noticed with the new meeting minutes, actually. One with the old, it references you as the 2022 to 2023 Chief Governance Officer, which that should be amended to 2026. That's apparent on both. Um, as for the supposed March 23rd meeting, if it can be changed from March 9th to March 23rd, same thing for the call of order on the new one. And I think those are all the issues that I at least picked up on.
Okay, thank you. Vice Chair Ferguson, is there any other discussion on the matter? Thank you for noticing that. 1 second. I think. Oh yeah. Also, there was another mistake on the March 9th amended meeting. On item number 11, when it talks about the Direct Inspection Committee report, it states Chair Michael 2 times in there, even though I think Vice Chair Ferguson should have been the third person on that committee. In any case, we shall, I guess, not approve these meeting minutes, but ask that they be amended again. Thank you for that. Okay. So then I guess I have to move that in. Thank you, Vice Chair Ferguson. Is there any other discussion on the meeting minutes amendment? Very chatty group today. All of them having a great Easter Monday, I'd say. Okay, then I guess shall move on to the comments from the chair of the board and CGO. Hello, directors. Hope you're having a great Easter. Seeing as you're all far away from me, I think you all decided to be online and not tell the chair. Good job, guys. Good job there. Good job. Anyways, I hope that your finals week is going well. And thank you, Director Khatab. I hope that your finals week is going well and your Easter weekend was also well. Now that we're finally in the last stretch of the board term, I hope that I can see more of you guys, preferably in person, but thank you. And I believe that's all from my comments. President Joby?
Can you guys hear me okay? Perfect. And apologies if I pause in between. As you may be able to tell from my voice, I am recovering and battling an ongoing sickness, hence why I'm also joining virtually, but still happy to be here nonetheless. Happy penultimate board meeting, everyone. Updates are pretty short this go round. In terms of some hiring updates, just want to extend a congratulations to incoming President Jessica Lee, as she has completed hiring for her vice president team officially. So I'd like to congratulate Alex Kuhlenkamp, who is the incoming Vice President of Programming and Services on the Brantford campus, as well as Aliana Scanga, who is the incoming Vice President of Clubs and Associations. And that officially wraps up VP hiring, which is great. And with that, there's also been subsequent AVP hiring. So I'd like to extend a congratulations to any successful AVP candidates, and to future AVP candidates. I'll have a more robust list of who those individuals are at our last board meeting. Also wanted to extend congratulations to our new Director of Athletics and Recreation, Ryan Lannon. That was a hiring panel that I served on a couple of weeks ago, and we only had to do one round of interviews, which was pretty great. And Ryan's a great guy. I've had the pleasure of working with him for the last couple of years. And he interviewed really, really well, and the panel, and honestly, the team are very excited and happy that he's going to be the one taking on that role. He does follow after some strong leadership in Kate, but I trust that he's going to do a great job. So again, very excited to see what he does in that role, and also in the future who takes his role. So yeah, exciting stuff. In terms of committee work, most of the stuff has wrapped up, again, because we are in end of year times. Most things are kind of done, or anything that is ongoing has already gone on without me and is looking to schedule their next meetings outside of my time. So most of my contributions to a lot of those groups have been completed. And in terms of some personal projects, Chayok and I are almost complete with synthesizing our findings from our consultations. And we're hoping to provide results to our team, so our VP team and the director team, next week. and also create a report for next year's team. We're also hoping to provide some kind of either report or presentation to folks at the university. I know there was some interest from folks within the student affairs department to get some idea of what our findings were like and see if some of that stuff would be applicable to them. So that's something that we're going to be looking to do. And if it is something that is of interest of the board to provide a small synopsis of, we would be happy to do that at the next board meeting as well. But yeah, those are my updates.
Thank you, President Joby. Are there any questions for Ryan at this moment? President Joby, sorry. Okay. President Joby, I would ask that you do also provide a report for us at next board meeting, because he did provide. So,
Yes, we can provide the same one that we'll provide to next year's team. We can just provide a copy of to the board.
thank you. And congratulations on the hiring, and please extend our congrats as well to President-elect Jessica Lee. I also hope that you feel better soon. And good luck on your recovery there. So have a speedy recovery. That's from me and the board. Okay, then. If there's no other questions for President Joby, we'll proceed to Phil.
Yeah, like Ryan, my updates are fairly brief. Transition meetings with the incoming student executive are officially in full swing, or at least will be by the end of this particular week. I have had meetings with Jessica as well as Emily. I believe the Brantford transition starts tomorrow. But ultimately, everything is in full swing, and we're really looking forward to working with Jessica and her team. Tried to have a data meeting this morning with regards to the Empower Me and legal care programs that the university offers all students at Laurier. Unfortunately, the facilitator of those programs was unable to attend that, so we'll have to reschedule that. Likely for sometime in May, where Jessica will get full throw. So we'll have to bring her up to speed on those two programs and how they're funded, and ultimately what we're looking for to get verification of the efficacy of those two programs. But it was a good conversation with our partners at the university and the Graduate Students Association this morning. Seagram Drive project, that work continues. I know that there was some student consults within the last couple of weeks, as well as some other kind of key partners in that kind of project. And so the work continues. I know that there have been some difficult conversations with the city, but we're in the process of trying to kind of work through those. Also sat through 5 interviews for the AVP of Student and Ancillary Services. Hoping that group of 5 candidates will be whittled down for a potential second round, but have not heard exactly what's going on with that just yet. The food services contract negotiations are ongoing. I'm not actually sure what I'm allowed to tell people publicly, but those conversations are in the process of getting underway. And then ultimately, everybody on the board for this year and next year, as well as a litany of alumni and a student executive, should have received a notification with regards to the 50th anniversary gift announcement and invitations to the official announcement on April the 14th. If you haven't, please let me know, and we will make sure that you get your invites promptly. And that's it.
Thank you, Phil. Are there any questions for Phil at this moment? Dr. Khattab?
This was actually for Ryan, but I didn't put my hand up earlier. But Ryan, are you guys then hiring for like Ryan Lennon's job now that he's moved up to like the director of athletics, or is that a separate kind of like hiring department?
Yeah, so that'll be its own hiring panel in due time. There has to be the actual switch over first. I don't know when his official date with the new role is. I believe it's May 1st or beginning of May that he'll make the switch. And so they have to, from the athletic side, get everything sorted before they then put the role out. But when they do look to fill that role, I'm sure there'll be an SU representative on that hiring panel as well.
Perfect. Thank you.
Thank you, Dr. Khattab. Are there any questions for Phil at this moment? Okay, thank you. Phil, I was actually going to ask you for an update on the food services contract. So
So what I can tell you is that there has been an offer to enter into contract negotiations. So there has been a selected provider, but I'm not entirely sure if I'm allowed to mention that in a public forum yet. So once I get permission to do that, I will happily do that. So its odds are pretty strong that we'll enter into those contract negotiations and move relatively quickly. So I might be able to provide a better update at the next board meeting.
Thank you. I guess that, yeah, we're having meetings for meetings for AVP ancillary fees, is that what you said?
So ancillary and student services. So Dan Dawson is currently in that position and he's retiring as of, I think his last day is May 29th, I want to say. Whatever the last working day of May is, he'll officially be retired come June 1st. So they're looking to fill that position. Their aim is to have somebody in place to kind of overlap with Dan's departure so that there's a little bit of overlap transition so that they can pick Dan's brain as best as they can before he actually turns the key, so to speak.
Okay. Thank you, Phil. Are there any other questions for Phil at this moment? Oh, yes. Any updates on the turret?
So I'm not entirely sure what you're looking for with regards to updates for the turret, but as you'll notice in the budget package, an operational and a capital budget has been developed and submitted to the board for their approval. We will be submitting an official request to get a quote on an acoustic treatment for the ceiling to kind of help improve that, which will probably come in at a substantial price tag, but that quote obviously hasn't happened yet, so isn't part of the budget submission and will be a separate submission during the next fiscal year. Does that help?
Okay, thank you, Dr. Anas, for that question. Are there any other questions at this moment? No? Okay. All right, then thank you, Phil, for that extensive report. I believe now we shall proceed to the budget approval, and I will hand that over to Chris.
Hi, everyone. We will go through a number of things this morning around the budget. Just so you're aware, there's a couple of motions that have to be made today. Approval of the overall budget for the student union for the 26-27 year, including a expenditure list for items over 10K. And then we require a separate, I think it's just one motion to approve both the governance board of directors budget and the elections budget for next year. And both of those budgets are your budgets as the board. So we require a separate motion for, there'd have to be two, one
Yep.
for each.
So that motion would have to go first, right?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, and we'll ask you to approve the elections budget and the board of directors budget first, because both of those budgets are built into the overall operating budget that we'll ask you to approve after. So in your package, there should be a separate sheet for each of the board of directors budgets and the elections budget. And you'll see there have been no changes to either of the budgets for next fiscal year. So the board budget has stayed the same at a little over $20,000, and the elections budget has stayed the same at a little over $15,000. I don't know, Ryan, if you had anything to specifically you wanted to talk to on these budgets, but if not, I will open it up for questions on those two.
Yeah, I can quickly jump in here. I mean, plain and simple, there wasn't really much money from those accounts spent this year when looking at the variance reporting. And so I felt like the logic of a one-to-one carryover was what made the most sense. I know there was discussion this year of potential ways to use it, and I could definitely see that budget being leveraged a little bit more in the coming year, but I couldn't see a way to justify increasing it by any means when I didn't think the spending had been near what was allocated. So that was the reason behind keeping it 1-to-1.
So it doesn't look like there's any questions on these specific budgets. Are there motions in the package, Ian, for the?
Specifically, no.
So we would need I guess, a motion to
Oh.
approve those two budgets.
Are there any other questions? So we're talking about just the governance and the elections budget at the moment, right? Dr. Khattab, do you have a question?
Are we discussing the board's budgets as well, or just those two?
Yes, specifically. We're discussing the board budget. So according to the budget that we have, the proposed budget, it states that the board.
Director Hoptimickle, I think you pressed on your
Okay, yes.
Mhm.
Me and the mic, guys. We have a loving relationship. Yes, so the proposed budget for the board for the upcoming year is about 20,000. That includes a lot of the like the OLC supplies and I guess your volunteer appreciation gifts as well. And on top of that, the elections budget has the elections group has its own budget as well. I believe there's a question from Director Anas. Could we potentially look at an increase for the ownership linkage budget? Turner or Phil?
So you're the board, you can absolutely discuss that. It's up to you.
Fair enough.
So what does that look like? And then depending on what the amount is, if that gets approved by the board, it may require a slight readjustment in order to present a balanced budget.
Okay. I guess we can look at an increase if we feel that is needed. Dr. Anas, do you want to give us a bit of a justification as to why you think we need an increase? Specifically for the ownership linkage?
Sure thing. Can you guys hear me?
I don't think we heard you right. Can you try that again?
Can you hear me?
Yes.
Perfect. Yeah, so this I guess Boyd year has the OLC co-chair. I felt like the budget for just everything in general was very tight. I know we didn't end up using almost everything, but it's more so that we tried so hard to plan around carefully. We tried to try to be financially responsible with each event. It kind of just made it so running events was close to impossible. We did run a couple events and we always fell short on things like just gifts and snacks and just things that we were giving away. So all in all, and next year, hopefully, I also expect the board to be more active in the community and to have a bigger presence. So based on all this, I was hoping that we could increase the budget for the OLC as a whole.
To what?
I would say a good starting point is like an extra grand. And I think that if I had an extra grand this year, I feel like a lot of the handcuffs could have come off. But yeah, we have a good starting point, an extra grand, and personally, that's where I see a good ballpark. But yeah.
So operationally, that's very easily done, I think. So so for the record, to make sure that we're crystal clear, currently the ownership linkage supplies is set at $2,000. You're looking to bump it to $3,000.
So I actually don't know how much. What's a reasonable amount? So I'm saying a ballpark of $1,000 because that's where I felt like I think $1,000 should have covered everything. But in my opinion, just the more the better, right? Because if I can have more budget at the start of the year, then I can create a roadmap and plan more events. So if we can have more, I'll happily take it and we'll plan more events next year. But a good ballpark to start at is $1,000. And Lulia, if you think we need more, then I'll happily take that input as well.
So again, we can't make that decision for you. Like $1,000, $2,000, like that's easily enough done. But it's a discussion amongst the board as to whether or not that's what they want to do for their budget for 26, 27. So it's really up to you guys.
Okay. I will weigh in here a bit and say that like 4,000 should be the benchmark. Just so that again, when it comes to planning, I know that the OLC had a bit of a snag this year because it's like deciding how much money we can spend or looking at what are the things that we can buy or whatever. So I would say an increase of $2,000 to the OLC budget would do a great deal. But I'll hear from Vice Chair Ferguson, Director Ward, and then we'll go to President Joby.
Yeah, I'm more so like I would be 100% for it. I just want to know, like, do we know how much we spent of the OLC budget this year to warrant that change?
I can tell you that I think we spent under the allotted amount that we had. I do not know exactly how much we have spent.
Okay.
Dr. Ward?
Yeah, I just kind of sorry, can you hear me first just before I begin?
Yes.
Yeah, I just wanted to second kind of what Director Anas was saying there. As the co-chair of the LLC, we were kind of playing this fine line balance between events, between merch, between different snacks and different things we can give out. So I think adding that $2,000 increase, as you said, would be very beneficial and just giving some freedom, some opportunities for the OLC. And I think the reason we went under is just because we were playing such a fine line balance that we were almost too hesitant to, want to spend that extra money or, risk towing too close to the line there. So I think the $2,000 increase would substantially help with that student outreach initiative, as we're not playing that game anymore and we're allowing just kind of that freedom to create events and to really increase outreach and not have to stress so much about it there.
President Joby, I believe your hand was up. And then we'll proceed.
Yeah, I mean, my question was going to be similar to what Vice Chair Ferguson asked, because again, I was more so curious about what the spending from this year was, which was what brought up the ask about it. Again, to echo Phil's point, like operationally, the increase is within our bounds, but I also do just want to, in the interest of asking for an increase, also want to make sure that it's coupled with, like specific interest in where that money is going to go to relative to what was experienced this year. And just from my perspective of seeing like, well, if this much was not spent, then I'm curious what the more is needed for, right? Just to provide my 2 cents on that. But again, the decision is left with you guys on where that goes.
If I could make a suggestion, maybe what we could do, if the board is interested, is agree to the increase, but make sure that next year's board does a good job of holding that money accountable so that it just doesn't become one of the things that rolls over year after year after year just because. So if there's some kind of key performance indicators that you have on there, so like, I'm just going to arbitrarily pick on the stickers, for example, like we do the stickers a little bit earlier, have those ready to go for Get Involved Fair in the summer, September, not summer, that type of stuff. Like there are little easy indicators that you can kind of show that you're actually using the money and it's being relatively effective. I think that's really easily enough done given how much board members from this board are transferring over to next year's board as well.
If I can speak, yeah, I think that's fair. Personally, like again, I took the OLC mid almost like as a new thing, but definitely for next year, I will, whether I be a OLC chair or not, I will help create a roadmap for key events and I guess booths we're doing throughout the semester, so we're more organized and we can actually spend the budget more efficiently. This semester got a bit complicated, but definitely we'll not drop the ball next year.
Was on like a second ago, guys. It was on a second ago. Okay, we'll go to Dr. Khattab and then Dr. Ward.
My question's for the OLC. I mean, we did have discussions earlier in the year about, for example, like getting sweatshirts for the committee and being more involved like on social media and doing all these different things. Did we not do them this year because of time constraint, or was that again more towards the budget? Unless you guys are still ordering the sweatshirts and whatnot, but we didn't really get an update about that, so I'm not too sure.
I would say that that is a discussion we have allotted for the in-camera meeting today.
Mhm.
So it should be something we will be discussing later. I don't really know how much I can talk on it, but I can say that it's been a mix of both, where we've been having a bit of a discussion on the budget and how much is allotted to the OLC, and as well as other time constraints as well. I believe Director Ward, your hand was up as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I just wanted to second the motion that kind of Phil had expressed there. I do think if there is a express, line there where we can encourage the budget to be used more effectively, I definitely agree with that. And yeah, I just want to reassure that we still have some ongoing processes in terms of all the initiatives that the OLC has set out and are looking at fulfilling them absolutely.
All
But
right,
I
thank
won't
you.
get too into it, of course.
All right, thank you, Director Ward. And I guess the other question then is, how do we feel about the food expense or the food expenses budget? Because I know that when we were discussing some of the OLC initiatives, I believe our board dinners were a part of that as well. So, how do we feel about that? Are you guys okay with the budget at $2,000? Do you want to increase it? Do you think that should be left the way it is? And hope that some of the dinners would be coming out of the OLC budget? Director Khattab?
I mean, I think the budget's good, but I don't believe we did use it up to that extent. Like in terms of board dinners, we've only had one this year so far. I'm not sure if you guys had ones in September because I wasn't on the board yet, but since we do have those $2,000, we did not use that budget. I'm not sure if we were planning to, but that's my opinion on that.
Okay, thank you. Then in that case, that should be good. So we're talking of an increase to the OLC budget for to like an increase of $2,000 to bring it to $4,000. And I believe that the OLC can talk about some key indicators for next year's OLC. Hopefully, in the end of term report that the OLC will be submitting in the next meeting to discuss of some of the key performance indicators we want, including some of the merch that we hope to have before they get involved fair next year. But anyways, that's something that I will leave to the OLC. Are there any other questions on any of the budgets that we have to approve today, either on the governance budget or the elections budget? Mm. Very chatty crowd. Oh, I love that, guys. Okay then. Chris Turner, do you have any other? Sorry. I see Turner in the thing and I'm like, Turner. Anyways, do you have anything else to add?
No, I think that's it. If the board is satisfied with adding $2,000 to the board of directors budget and keeping the election budget as is at $15,000, then I think you can make your motions.
Okay then. Perfect. Can I have a motion to approve the elections budget and the governance budget with the proposed increase of $2,000 to the governance budget specifically which would then go to $22,000. Motion by Dr. Khattab, seconded by Vice Chair Ferguson. Is there any discussion on the matter? Okay then. As there are no questions, we will proceed with voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Dr. Anas, Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Thank you. Director Zhao or O'Leary, do you have anything else to add? No? Okay, thank you. Turner?
So now that we've approved both of those budgets, we can move on to the overall budget for the student union for next year. As I said earlier, the board of directors budget and the elections budget are included in the overall budget. Now that we've added $2,000 to the board of directors budget, the budget that's presented before you is now in a deficit position of $2,000. However, given the overall magnitude in that our budget is approaching $14 million now, it will not be difficult for us to find $2,000. And we do have a miscellaneous budget line built into this that we can easily take the $2,000 out of, that will get us back to a balanced position. So I don't foresee any issues with the addition of that $2,000 preventing us from moving forward with a balanced budget. So included in your package is a number of documents related to the overall budget. This process, just so you're aware, starts in January and takes roughly 3 months to put these numbers together. We have between 40 to 50 different departments that have budgets associated with them. And we have between 10 to 15 budget managers who are in charge of putting those budgets together. So based on that work by those people over the past 3 months, you'll see the budget before you. And the document that I'm starting with, which is in your package, is the budget summary by category. So if you look at that document, you'll see our total projected revenue for next year is $13,890,946,000. Our total expenses for the year are the same as that when you include principal repayment on loan. And so we have a balanced budget moving forward. That's up overall about 6% from last year's budget, which is pretty much in line with numbers that we've provided in the past. There are a couple of significant increases or changes to the budget this year that the board should be aware of. There's two, in fact. The first one, and this has been approved by the board already, is we've now included a $250,000 payment to the university, this next year being the first of the 5-year commitment for that money to go to awards and bursaries and grants to student. So that $250,000 payment to the university is now included in the budget. And as Phil had mentioned earlier, now that we're bringing the turret back online as a more active space, there's money in the budget both from an operational perspective to operationalize the space, but also some capital money to do some work up there to make it a better usable space, in that we're potentially serving food up there. So there's some work that needs to be done around the bar area to make it a more usable space for that endeavor. And as Phil mentioned, some work related to the noise in that area. And we've also got some money in the budget for furniture potentially we would buy to make that space more usable for the students. So those are the two big items that have been added to the budget this year. Everything else is basically business as usual. We have just increased certain costs in areas that needed them. reduce costs where we could in areas where we didn't spend as much this year in the current year, and we don't need that money going forward. But overall, we were able to provide a balanced budget. So there's three ways I've shown you this budget of $13.8 million. As I just said, you've looked at it by revenue and expense category. We've also split the budget, and there's a couple of pie charts in your package that show the budget split amongst the four ends of the organization. There's a bit of art and science to this, and that you could also argue that into some cases that all the money we spend probably goes a little bit to each one of these four ends, but we try to specifically split it up amongst the four. So you'll see in the pie chart how we've split our budget amongst and covered all four ends of the student union. And the third document, which is a 2-pager, is we've shown you the budget, that same $13.89 million by the different departments and the leadership team in the organization. So you'll see the total spend by programming and services, internal operations, governments and stakeholder relations, et cetera, et cetera. And overall, again, it's the same numbers, so it remains a balanced position. The last document in your package is the expenditures over $10,000, the individual one-time expenditures, and we're required to separate this out in the budget so that you can see where some of the larger chunks of our money is going towards. So you'll see in that 1-pager that lists the over 10K payments, about a third of the way down, you'll see the $250,000 donation to Laurier that's now been added. You'll see some capital money for the turret refresh. There's some money in there for upgrade of audio visual equipment in Wilfs, which is quite dated and needs to be replaced. Some furniture for the Brantford Student Center. And then most of the other expenses are ongoing known expenses that carry over year for year. Like, for example, our USA membership, our audit expense, our insurance costs, our entertainment costs for programming and services, et cetera, et cetera. So that is a snapshot for you of those over 10K expenditures. Other than that, as I said, it's basically business as usual, other than the addition of those two items I mentioned. So I'll leave it at that and open it up for questions.
Okay, thank you, Turner. Turner. Is there any other questions for Turner at this moment? Okay. Yes, I did have I had a question on the over 10K payment report. It states that there's going to be a FNCC front entrance refresh. What is that?
Yeah, so I don't know if people were here around the spring reading week, noticed when they were doing some remedial work on the stairs going up. They're pretty well rusted out from all the salt that comes into that building every winter. And it's been a long time, and they definitely need some work to keep that space safe. And we'd also just like to freshen up the space as well and make it a little more inviting, as it is kind of the main thoroughfare through this building. So we've assigned a little bit of money to that already. You'll also notice we've got other capital and reserve money set aside, that if that exceeds that money we've set aside right now, we do have extra money in the budget to cover that. But that's a project we'd like to do sooner rather than later. The big issue for us is obviously the air handling project that's happening in this budget over the summer. Can we work around that project to do what we need to do with the front entranceway? So it might impact the timing as to when the work actually happens. But we just need to make that space a little safer ultimately.
Okay. Thank you. Are there any other questions at this time? Dr. Anas? Was the FYP, I think that's the first year project disbanded this year? Why didn't they have a budget?
I believe first year project was actually disbanded last fiscal year. So I don't even believe it was in the 25-26 budget, but I'd have to double check.
Wait 1 second here.
But you are correct in saying that it has not been budgeted for this year.
Yes.
I don't know, Ryan, if you know specifically why that has been not included.
Yeah, first year project was disbanded a while back. Like a couple years ago.
Do
I
we?
almost want to say before COVID.
It was a thing when I was in second year, but my third year it wasn't. So as of like 22, 23, it wouldn't have been a thing anymore. So it's been gone for a couple of years.
Do we know why?
I mean, partly some of the first year focus of it wanted to be included as part of A team's provisions, and so some of that was, I think, a little bit reflected in some of the work that committee did then with a bit of a different mandate, but also because I think a lot of what FYP did crossed over with what the FYLP did. So it was just a lot of duplication of efforts to do some programming for first years, and the folks within residence and locus already have a pretty good grasp on that. And so I believe that was the intention of disbanding that. But again, I wasn't there when the decision was made a couple years ago. That's just what I remember hearing.
Okay, thank you. I do have two questions actually. So in the budget summary by department, it states that there's like, I guess when it comes to the other category, there is a Milton fee for 8,000, and there's also an international news budget category. What are those specifically?
So the Milton fee is our attempt, and Phil, you can maybe explain this better than I, but they're not fully part. They don't have to pay all the student union fees that the regular undergrads do, but there is an attempt to collect a little bit of money from them. I don't know if you have.
I believe there was I remember there was like an issue that the Milton attendance or numbers were not to a certain extent, so we couldn't extract some fees from them.
Correct. So basically the Milton fee, I can't remember exactly what it's called, but it's ultimately designed to kind of provide them with support, which is, we learned this morning, is very heavily involved with, maybe heavily is a bit of a sell. But they get support through SRAC, for example. They get access to the health and dental plan, et cetera. And it does provide a small cushion for some small activities that we ultimately coordinate with Jess Calbry in her office, in the Dean of Students office, to be able to kind of do some activities on the Milton campus. But again, it's a very nominal fee and it doesn't kind of generate a ton of revenue, but that's ultimately what that is. I forget what that's, the international news. So that's the INS market downstairs. It's basically the tuck shop convenience store. That's international news. So that's what the IN stands for in INS market. And ultimately that's where that's from.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? Okay, as we're getting to that then, the other question is the Aramark lease. I believe that's revenue that we're generating from them, correct?
Yes, that's it's a combination of a lease rental for the space, which is the food court, as well as we get a commission on their food sales down there. So it's a combination of the two revenue sources for the food court in Waterloo.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions? As you're thinking of more questions there. The other question that I had is, and I think this turns back to when I attended the Seagram's consultation, they discussed that the budget, they were waiting for the board to approve the budget before they could, give us like an estimate of how much they think it would like cost in the end. I just wanted to ask, like, I don't know, is it the capital projects part of the budget that would fit into that, or?
So the Seagrams, so the Students Union doesn't pay into the Seagram project. We partner with the university by creating that fourth entity, which we talked about a year ago. Can't really remember. Anyways, they're creating a fourth entity, which is ultimately going to be comprised of the university, the Students Union, and the Graduate Students Association. And through that fourth entity, they'll be able to secure the capital. But the fee that folks pay, I think it's about $95. That fee goes to pay a chunk of the Seagram project. So the Students Union won't operationally be giving money to that project. So that's not seen in this budget because it's not an expense.
Oh, okay. So then the capital project part of the budget is allocated to something else then?
The capital budget as part of this budget refers to a lot, for the most part, work that's done to maintain the Fred Nichols Campus Center here and the Brantford Student Center in Brantford. There's some money if we have to do work to Wilfs or the Belmont in Brantford. So we normally set aside funds for that. Also in the food court, if Aramark, in our agreement with Aramark, we pay for a lot of the equipment that they use down there. So if they came to us and said, hey, we need to replace this dishwasher or we needed to replace this oven, then we may potentially have to pay for that. So we have to set aside money in our budget for those types of things. So
Thank you. I guess the other question that I had is when it comes to the hospitality department, it sort of looks like we might be having a deficit. Is that true?
that is true. We have had a deficit in hospitality for years now. So we've been subsidizing hospitality. Our goal is to get that back to a balanced position, and we're looking at putting some initiatives in place to do that in the upcoming year. But that's an ongoing struggle, getting that to a profitable position. Yes, for sure.
Okay. And I think that we're hoping the turret would be able to help us out balance that then.
So the initial goals of the Turret Cafe, name to be filled in later, will likely be to break itself even.
Okay.
In order to kind of activate the space. The priority for that project is to activate the space and put students in that space. And so if it becomes the kind of hub and hive of student activity that we think it can be, even if that business operation is operating at a loss, we think that's a win at the end of the day, because one of the things on the Waterloo campus that I'm sure you can personally attest to is space is at a premium. So trying to get folks to kind of use our space would be priority number one.
Okay. Thank you. Do we know why we're running at a deficit? Specifically? Do we know why?
She wants to know why we're running at a deficit in hospitality.
So there's a lot of reasons for that. I'll point to the amount of competition that we have around campus here. It seems within a stone's throw of Laurier campus, there's dozens and dozens and dozens of food provision businesses that we compete against. The restaurant here in Waterloo used to derive a lot of sales revenue from alcohol sales. Given now that students drink significantly less than in the past, alcohol revenue has decreased precipitously over the last decade, and is no longer a major source of revenue for that space. We found when the School of Business opened across the street, we lost hundreds of students that used to be in and around this area that would frequent Wilfs that now tend not to come over to this side of campus unless they have an elective here. So there's that. Just the overall expense of a sit-down full service restaurant is difficult for a lot of students to justify that money going to there. So it's not one thing, it's a whole bunch of things that have contributed to that.
Thank you.
It is worth noting that it is a project that we have been taking on for quite a number of years now. So basically, ever since COVID, the revenues streams that this hospitality unit used to have haven't come back in the numbers the way that we would have hoped and expected. There's lots of different variables that would contribute as to why that's happening. But we are in the process of working with Tara Robinson to kind of redefine what Wilf's hospitality actually looks like, what, again, the cafe to be named later ultimately looks like, and then ultimately redefining what our catering ultimately looks like for students. We want to focus a lot on the food insecurity side of things in terms of those operations here on the Waterloo campus, but also our units on the Brantford campus to try to bring prices down at a reasonable amount for folks. So there's going to be a lot of work done over the course of the summer. So next year's board will be able to kind of hopefully see through updates and questions what we're trying to aim to get at. There's lots of hope on the horizon, but it's been a bit of a struggle since COVID for sure.
Okay, thank you. Just to add my 2 cents in there, I will say that looking to decrease the prices of a lot of the services offered at our hospitality places would do a great deal to decrease the deficit, I'd say. But I'm glad that that is something that you guys are discussing as well. And I hope that Tara Robinson will do a great deal for our hospitality department there, because I genuinely love Wills and the turret. So I hope that comes back up there. I think we all feel the same way there. Yes, I had another question. When we're looking at the protected services part of it on the other department, sorry, on the budget, what did that initially entail, and why isn't that included this year?
So what we've considered our protected services is our ERT program, our Hawk Walk program. I think there another food bank as well. And so we try to set aside a chunk of money every year for those projects so that they have a pot of money. So say food bank needed to buy a new refrigerator, or the ERT team needed to buy new equipment for their team, new uniforms, new medical equipment. We have a pot of money. If Hawk Walk needed to buy a new van, which we have one in Waterloo and one of Brantford, we set aside a pot of money every year to do that as well. So that's what that money is for.
Thank you. I thought the Hawk Walk services would go under the campus safety budget.
Yeah, the Hawk Walk budget is under programming and services, but the protected services money, it doesn't show there, but there is a reserve set aside for protected services. I forget where that is, but it's in here somewhere.
It isn't what is it displayed here? That's why. Okay then. Are there any questions for Turner at this moment from the directors? Vice Chair Ferguson?
Yeah, just one on the Brantford campus. I noticed that EcoHawks and Healthy Lifestyles don't have a budget listed. Is that my understanding that they're currently not active on the Brantford campus?
Essentially, yes, is the answer to your question. During the leadership of last year's student executive team, so that would have been under the Vice President of Programming Services, Brantford Shyok, Sned Gasol. He saw an opportunity to create more efficiencies down on the Brantford campus. So ultimately, the work that those committees done are now part of the task of the Hawk team, and so that they're trying to do the work of those 3 committees.
Gotcha. Thanks.
Okay, thank you, Vice Chair Ferguson. Are there any other questions at the moment? 2 years ago under Coyle Vest. Okay. Bill, you're giving out misinformation right now. How dare you?
They definitely gave out misinformation,
Yeah.
maliciously, in fact.
I would make I would make a recommendation to name the Turret Cafe the Board of Directors Cafe. I think that would be, especially if you called it the Board of Directors 2025 to 2026 Cafe. That would generate a lot of revenue, I would say.
We will take your recommendation under advisement.
Thank you. Okay, and the other question that I had is when it comes to the Brantford Student Center revenue, it's I believe that is r- money that we're getting from our renters, correct?
So the revenue source for the Brantford Student Center is there is a Brantford Student Center building fee, much like there is the building fee here in Waterloo. So that's money that goes to use to operate that building to pay for utilities and cleaning costs and maintenance and staffing of that building.
Okay. And then I'm guessing with what we discussed in the in-camera in regards to the Brantford Student Center.
We can't really talk about that, but that hasn't been considered in this.
Okay, as we consider. Okay. Thank you. All right then. Are there any other questions for Turner at this moment? From the directors? Let me see if I have any other questions for you. Okay. If there are no questions, then that means we'd have to proceed to approving the budget by directors. Any other comments, any other concerns, any other questions? Seems like Cafe Bod is for the win there, guys. Personally. Okay then. If there's no other questions, I'd like to thank you, Turner, for answering all of our questions. I hope I didn't exhaust you there. In that case, then we shall proceed to voting. Can I have a motion that the Board of Directors approve the proposed budget for the 2026 to 2027? I believe that's what it's the expenditures budget over 10K and the proposed budget for 2026 to 2027. Motion by Vice Chair Ferguson, seconded by Director Murphy. Is there any discussion on the matter? I feel like we've exhausted all of it today. Okay then, we shall proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Congratulations. Thank you. Is there anything else in regard to the budget that we have to go through? Directors Khatab and Zhao, do you have anything to add? Okay then, I think that is all for the budget. Thank you so much and congratulations.
Sorry, Lulia, you're muted again.
It was on a second ago. We and our mics, my friends. Okay then, we shall proceed to the end of term financial. Wait, yeah, we'll proceed to the end of term financial report, which is what we had amended the agenda for earlier. Vice Chair Ferguson, are you ready to take it on?
Yeah, ready when you are.
Okay then, I'll proceed to hand it over to you.
All right, perfect. So just a couple of things. So with this end of term report, there is going to be something else presented in camera at the next board meeting that I'm going to discuss. Sorry. So we met on the 12th of March to discuss our findings here. So as for EL2D, we didn't see many issues with it. We just wanted to improve the language of Section 9 that is currently the president will not allow the board to be uninformed of any anticipated surplus or deficit at or near the end of the fiscal. The proposed revision that the committee decided on for that was the president will not fail to promptly inform the board of any anticipated year-end surplus or deficit as such variance becomes reasonably foreseeable. rather than making it basically the whole thing behind this was A, to improve the language, and B, to improve the expectations of such a thing. It's more so as a risk mitigation standpoint, so reasonably foreseeable could mean different than what the current stanza states with at or near the end of the fiscal, which isn't entirely it just allows basically what I'm trying to say is it allows the board sufficient time to either mitigate issues, make informed decisions, anything like that. And it becomes particularly important given our organization's 1-year executive term structure, which, yeah. The next, so there was nothing to report on EL2E. But as for EL2F, let me just scroll down. Again, just to improve the language of it, Section 6, the proposed changes to admit it in its entirety and add to Section 5 a subpoint D, which just explains Section 5. It's literally it's essentially it's covering the same thing, but it's under 1 point instead of 2 points, because right now it reads to split orders to avoid the order meeting capital purchase criteria of Section 5. So the committee decided that it would be better to just include it as a Section 5 rather than an initial point. Again, it's just to improve clarity. But yeah, other than those two things, I did add an appendix onto this, which the board noticed as well. As of the 2025 year, I'm assuming that this is just because, like, I'm assuming that this isn't exactly the case, but I'm assuming it's just because well, obviously it's because the GICs were up. I just more so had a broad question, and the committee had a broad question. Is there currently any money that is not listed under that short-term investments tab that is currently invested in other GICs? Because right now, as of the audited statements which we took a look at, there was nothing.
So currently, you're correct. We do not have anything invested in GICs. That was a limited opportunity for us as GIC rates were quite favorable in and around COVID, coming out of COVID. So we moved a lot of our money out of our general savings account into GICs. But right now, the interest rate we get from our savings account is almost identical or better than what short-term GICs are. And in fact, we'd have to invest in the maximum term GICs available in order to get a comparable result. And it just doesn't justify having that money in a non-liquid position for more than a year when we can earn as much or more with it just in our savings account. So that's why we've moved away from GICs right now. However, if the markets ever show improvement to those rates, absolutely, we would move money into those types of investments if it made financial sense.
Gotcha. Appreciate that, Chris. But yeah, other than those two things, that's all I have for the open session. For the in-camera session next week, we'll be proposing either a new policy. But yeah, other than that, that's all the finance committee has for the year. And yeah, that new policy would be contingent on a conversation that I have with Phil Ian at some point. So yeah. I can take any questions, any discussion on those two policy reviews, or sorry, on those two policy adjustments. But other than that, that's all I got. Appreciate it, Chris.
Okay, thank you. I guess Bill and Ian, you have an impending meeting to discuss something very fun as financial policy. Yeah.
Just a quick clarification in EL2F, by taking 6 into 0.5, just want to make sure that I have the wording correct. So the proposal is that EL2F5D, would you want that to read that is intentionally divided into multiple transactions in order to avoid the requirements of this policy? Just wanting to clarify so that the language reads correct.
Correct. That's exactly it.
Okay, perfect.
Okay, thank you. Are there any other questions for Vice Chair Ferguson at this moment? Or anyone else here? Okay. I will say that as I was a part of the committee, I do agree with the proposed changes here. So I don't think there's any comments from me. I think the rest of the committee is also in accordance with this. So if there's no other comments or concerns from any of the directors or anyone else here, I shall be calling it to a vote. Okay. Yeah, just like voting then. Okay then. Can I have a motion that the Board of Directors approve the recommendation from the end of term financial committee's report to make some changes to the EL2D and EL2F? Motion by Dr. Anas, seconded by Dr. Murphy. Thank you. Are there any comments or concerns at this moment? Okay, then we shall proceed to voting. This is a very much like speak now or forever hold your peace, guys. Look at that, so funny. Okay, then let's proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Dr. Anas, Dr. Zhao? Motion passes 0-0 to 8. Thank you all so much. Okay, then. I believe now we shall proceed to the in-camera session. Since there's no other announcements from me on my end, can I have a motion on the Board of Directors proceeds to in-camera session? Motion by Director Ward, seconded by Vice Chair Ferguson. Is there any discussion on the matter? No. Okay, then we shall proceed to voting. All of those opposed? All of those abstaining? And all of those in favor? Dr. Ward?